Hi, my name is Matt Boyle, and what we're going to be doing today is we'll be talking about suicidal ideation in the veteran and serving community. Now, something which I hold really close to my heart is mental health within veterans and mental health within those still serving as well. After my own time in the army and having witnessed and been around those who, and unfortunately, have lost friends to suicide. Now, what I'd like to do is talk to you about what mental health problems veterans face. Now, it's very specific. Some are very specific, and we'll discuss that later on. Okay, so also why are veterans at a high risk? Now, I fully understand that those struggles which veterans have and which those who are serving have with their mental health is not just for them. Civilians, obviously, and non-ex-military do suffer from mental health problems, these same mental health problems, but there's a little difference in the way it affects us. And I think we're going to be talking about that a little bit more as we go through this. Please stick with me. Okay, so why do so many of our brothers and sisters take their own lives? Again, we tend to see this in the media a lot. Okay, it comes up, and we throw all sorts of numbers around. One of the problems we've got in the UK specifically is how we record. Our statistics. We tend to like to use US statistics because the US doesn't have a national health service. Veterans tend to be treated by their VA. They have a specific healthcare system in place just for their veterans because they don't have healthcare. They don't have a national health service. This is a two-edged sword because in one way it allows the US VA to collect statistics on what's happening with veterans' mental health and physical health and be able to provide all this sort of information. In the UK, we don't have this because once somebody leaves the military, unless they are registered as a veteran with their GP and with the NHS, the statistics and the data is lost. Okay, amongst all the other statistics within the NHS, and it's harder to extract that information. So a lot of the information which we tend to go off of when it comes to veteran suicide, veteran mental health, etc., seems to be not as robust with our data collection in the UK. One of the things we can do is to make sure that we are collecting this data is please go to your GP and register as a veteran. Okay, it's really simple, and all they do is they add a read code to your medical records, which allows you to be registered as a veteran, which also allows them to be able to pull statistics off, and we have great granulation and understanding of the problem within our veteran community. And then what we're going to be doing is looking what we can do about it, what we can do about veteran suicidal ideation. So the most common mental health risks within the most common mental health risks within the veteran community we see is PTSD. A little bit of a bugbear of mine. Okay, I do suffer from PTSD, as do a number of people. PTSD is not the big killer out there, and I'm going to elaborate on that in a little while. Okay, we seem to have developed another stigma where veterans who don't have PTSD are coming forward and saying they have PTSD because it seems to be more acceptable to have PTSD. It becomes more acceptable to have PTSD if a veteran comes forward and they're suffering from stress, anxiety, all these other problems. Okay, what's happening is they don't think they're going to get the same amount of support, because all they see in the media and with all these charities out there is it's all to do with PTSD. Now, that is one of these things we need to break. We need to break this stigma. Okay, just because you're in the just because you're a veteran or in the military, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be dealing with depression. Okay, general anxiety disorder. Okay, alcohol, substance misuse. Okay, these are the big hitters. Okay, so all of these mental health conditions and many more mental health conditions out there can all result in suicidal ideation. Okay, so it's not necessarily post-traumatic stress disorder. And let's break another one of these taboos out there. Saying the word suicide does not make people kill themselves. Okay, so can we just get away from that now? Okay, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. So I'm going to throw some statistics out here. So what we're going to look at is the characteristics. Okay, what we tend to find within veterans who are seeking treatment for mental health. So over 68% are aged 45 years or older. Okay, 95.6% of those who seek help are male. Okay, over 68% are unable to work. Okay, and I'll just throw this out there to see where these studies came from. As I said, these are studies which have taken place. Okay, and these are where I'm getting these numbers from. Okay, now as a ex-army medic, okay, we say veterans with poor mental health are at greater risk of other injuries, other health issues as well. But sometimes it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So if you've got a mental health care problem, you're more likely to have social exclusion, especially with general anxiety disorder, etc. You're going to exclude yourself from society. Functional impairment, again, so something which prevents you from working at the level that you used to work. Now, I have found this. I used to work at a very high level, be able to work in really high pressure environments, and my ability to do that is now reduced significantly. It is not unusual, okay, to treat a mental health injury as you would a physical health injury. If you break your leg, you can't walk. Okay, the same with a mental health injury. If you're in the acute stage of having a mental health injury, it is going to affect the way you work and the way your mind works. Okay, but we can get past this, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Poor physical health. Again, out there, people let themselves go. It's harder to engage, isn't it? Sometimes it affects our ability to go out. Sometimes it affects what we eat, how we eat. We either don't eat or we eat too much. We have all of these really terrible coping strategies. And again, looking at where these statistics come from. So comorbidity or other medical conditions. So again, I said about what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Veterans presented with mental health issues often have underlying physical injuries. Chronic pain, 41% of those presenting are suffering from chronic pain. Mobility issues, 34%. Hearing impairment, 30%. Cardiovascular problems, 25%. Okay, gastrointestinal problems, 22%. Now, what I said, what comes first, the chicken or egg? So throughout your military career, we know, especially if being in infantry or when you're more mobile and you're doing a lot of phys, you're doing a very active role. Okay, what happens is we pick up injuries, and we know we pick up injuries. So so we can no longer run, okay, as well as we can, as fast as we could. Yeah, in the infantry, your back, knees, ankles, everything tends to get shot. But with that as well, you've got to pick up these chronic pain. With chronic pain comes mobility issues. With the mobility issues, again, we're going to see gastrointestinal problems. Now, this is quite a funny one, or an interesting, not funny, haha, but funny, interesting one for me. Now, you go sick, you go to the sick bay if you're in the Navy, or the med centre if you're in the Army, or you go to see a medic, okay, and you've twisted your ankle, you've got a sprain, you've got one of these sports injuries, musculoskeletal pain injuries, okay, and we joke about it, but what are you going to be given? You're going to be given a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory as part of the treatment. Now, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, okay, naproxen, and things like diclofenac sodium, okay, we tell you to take these with meals. The reason we tell you to take these with meals is because it affects your stomach, the walls of your stomach lining. Now, after years of trying to crack on with ankles and knee and back injuries, we know that in the military we tend to eat these pills to keep us going. The resulting problem of trying to keep yourself going on non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs is you're going to get gastrointestinal problems. But now your body is fucked. Okay, you're not working well. You're separated from your platoon or your unit because you're no longer taking part in that phase because you're in pain. That chronic pain and those mobility issues are going to affect your mental health. Okay, when you're not with your when you're moved to limited deployability, when your career is curtailed because of injuries, that will affect your mental health. And this list we're just looking at here is going to come with that. Now, one for me is, as I started to get into and do more research on mental health myself, I was medically discharged after 24 years service. In my 24th year of service, I was medically discharged for complex PTSD. Now, there's an American specialist, okay, his name is Joyner, so this is nothing to do with joining something or carpentry, okay, and he came up with a theory about suicidal ideation. Now, I read up on this, and this massively changed the way that I think about suicide, and I think about how my military career and what I've witnessed affects that. Now, please read up on this, okay, look at Joyner's theory, okay, but what I've done here is I've taken a few of the Americanisms out, okay, because they make up a few words which don't really exist in a normal dictionary. But I've put this into a veteran's context, and I'd just like to go through this with you. And as we go through, more will become apparent. So we're going to look at why veterans are at risk of self-harm and suicide. Now, when we look back at our recruiting campaign, is a really good place to start looking. Now, you look at the top right there, okay, this is belonging, okay, it's an army, the current army recruiting thing. Yeah, we look at the Navy one, made in the Royal Navy, find your role in the RAF, okay, and Royal Marines Commando is a state of mind. It's all about belonging and making you feel part of the team. Now, this is part of how we work in the military, isn't it? We need the individual to be bigger than the individual. They need to be part of something bigger, okay, and you are part of a team. So we look at belonging. So belonging is an important part of being in the military, and it means different things to each of us. And a lot of what I'm talking about is subjective and will affect each of us in a different way. And I hope some of this sort of resonates with you guys. And we all miss stuff from when we served. Okay, even when we're serving and we move from one job to another, okay, and we miss guys we used to work with, we miss that camaraderie, we miss that brother and sisterhood, okay, that we had with those around us. Now, when we look at joiners theory, okay, the loss of belonging. This is a big part of what makes up us, okay, our identity. Okay, so when we leave the military, we have this loss of belonging. And this, once we leave the military and we have this loss of belonging, we sort of feel empty. We have this, we have no place in society, to some degree. So people who have this will find we don't have somewhere to be. Okay, loss of being part of the unit, tribalism. So especially in certain units where we are proud of who we are and the unit we are part of. We are part of something bigger than us, and it means something to be part of that unit. Okay, and when we leave, that's gone, and that leaves a hole. Okay, and then we have this sudden removal of an all-encompassing social structure. Okay, on Civvy Street, you can't just, you're not got your mates living around you. You're not living in a barrack room with your mates or knocking on the door next door. Let's go to the mess. Let's go to the bar, and just living out of each other's pockets. Okay, many of us, we've done that since we joined up at 16 or 17 years old. Where we are looked after cradle to grave in the military. Okay, and then all of a sudden that's gone, and then we see this sort of loss of belonging, which is a massive part of joiners theory. Okay, civilian life can become a bit of a burden to us. Okay, and as I said, this is all part of our identity. Now, through your military career, your identity has to change. When you join, before you join the military, you're a civilian, you're a student, or whatever you're, and you have a certain identity. You join the military, and we change your identity. Okay, sometimes you don't get on with the friends you had before you joined up. You have to make new friends. They say you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. In the military, you can't even choose your friends. Okay, how has your identity changed? It changes when you promote. You go from private soldier to lance corporal. As you promote, you have to take this onto your identity. Okay, you're growing up. You have to take on extra responsibilities, and with that, your identity change. If you become an instructor, you have to have that, so be able to put that shield and that different face on when you're in front of your recruits, okay, or those you're teaching. Okay, your identity has to mature and has to change. The same with when you leave the military, your identity's got to change again. So we need to look at how your identity is and look at how our values and our standards of what we hold dear, and how that has changes over time, and it does change over time. And how does it affect you and others? Okay, your identity will affect those around you, and I'm sure a lot of people end up going through a number of relationships which break down, and we put pressure on those we love and those around us. Okay, and our identity will affect those around you. So once we leave the military, okay, we come to the second part of joiners theory, which is thoughts of becoming a burden. Okay, now Joyner calls this burdensomeness or something. Okay, as I said, I've changed it around a bit because Americans tend to make up words, but it's a sound theory. So when we look at thoughts of becoming a burden, unemployment, change of employment, or start at the bottom of a new ladder. Okay, if you've just spent 22 years or plus, okay, working your way up a ladder, and you leave, you now start at the bottom of a new ladder. Okay, and you've got to start again from scratch in a lot of ways, and that can feel a burden, like you've got to do it all again. Okay, and that's going to affect your family, isn't it? Okay, you're not bringing in the same amount of money as you earn when you're in the military. A lot of us think we will get more money when we leave, but sometimes a lot of us we won't. Okay, if we've got discharged due to injury, and we have to rely on our families more, we have to rely on our partners, and they have to, and yeah, we feel that we've become a burden on other people. And in the military, a good example of this is when if you've ever done a casualty evacuation, okay, and a PTI or somebody's on an exercise, somebody's turned around to you and said, right, you're the casualty, everybody else get him on a stretcher and you're going to carry him. You don't feel, any normal soldier, sailor, airman, or whatever, does not feel, oh, brilliant, I'm not running anymore, I'm just going to lay on this stretcher and just be Jack, do we? We don't feel that. We feel absolutely miserable because we feel that we've become a burden that everybody else has got to carry us. And that misery and that feeling what we get there is amplified once if we become injured, and then financial worries. Okay, there's financial worries. We talk about house, we talk about the children. You feel that you've gone from being the breadwinner, you've gone from being a person who is fit, who is who is the person who is always leading, and you go from that and you go to become a burden, and other people, you have to rely on other people, and that's going to feed into this thoughts of becoming a burden on others. So feelings of guilt, seeing former comrades deploying into danger without you. Now, within my own regiment, okay, my battalion, I know a lot of the guys who got out when we deployed back to Afghanistan again, and every time the battalion deployed back to Afghanistan, you get that pang of guilt where you wish that you were going back with them. Okay, and that's normal, but you get these feelings of guilt. Okay, if you become wounded in action, like unfortunately I was, to know your friends are still out there and your guys who you're supposed to be looking at after, if they're still on the front line and you're not with them, these feelings of guilt and you becomes bigger, and this thoughts of becoming a burden on other people really starts to grow. So those two thoughts of becoming a burden, okay, and how we see ourselves, they translate to non-veterans and everybody else. Now, what is different between the military and civilians, non-military, is conditioning in the armed forces. How we train our soldiers, okay, sailors and airmen, to do the job. So we train people to run towards danger. Okay, people's natural reaction is to run away from gunfire. Soldiers, we train people to run towards it. Okay, as a teaching tool, in the military, we use neuro-linguistic programming. Okay, so why we do things as a drill. So on a word of command, your body will have a reaction to that word of command. Okay, and you'll have an emotional response to that reaction, which will make you do something because we've done it as a repetition. Okay, and we've pushed your body from when you joined the military, okay, to do things which are not normal for a human being to do. Okay, and that's how we look at things, how we deal with fear and all sorts of other things, and how we deal with physical pain and how we deal with mentally. Now, this is really important for us doing our job in the military. However, it gives us this acquired capability. We have an acquired capability for violence. We have an acquired capability for taking pain. Now, the third part of joiners theory is all about acquired capability. Now, this is the place where our military service makes us more susceptible to suicidal ideation or suicidal thought. Now, as I said, increased pain, intolerance, and coming to terms with your own mortality is an operational necessity. We know when we go away and we join up, we know we may get killed doing this job. Okay, you jump out of an aircraft, parachute might not open. Okay, you run into fire. We train you to run into fire. We teach you first aid. We teach you how to apply a tourniquet to yourself should you get injured. Okay, we run until our lungs burn. Okay, we run until our legs burn. Okay, I've carried weights and anti-tank kit on my back until I've physically cried. Okay, I've carried kit until tendons have snapped. A lot of us have done this. Okay, It is not normal for a human being to do that sort of thing. Okay. And then still try to crawl after you're injured. Okay. So we have this increased tolerance to pain and come to terms with our own mortality. That's part of being in the military. Also part of the military, we become proficient and competent with means and methods of suicide. We teach people how to kill. Okay, one of the things which stops civilians and non-military from killing themselves is they are scared that they will fail. They're scared it will hurt. One of the natural things which stops suicide is people's intolerance to pain and the fact that they don't know how to do it properly. Okay. Okay, now this is another one we do. Engaging in pre-deployment morbid behavior. I can put my hands up and say, before deploying, on every operational tour I've deployed on, I've sat there and I've wrote a bluey or a letter to give to my mum, and later to my family, to my wife, my kids, my loved ones. I've wrote letters which were going to be posted in case I die. What we do when we do that is we are engaging in a morbid behavior. This is what people who are going to kill themselves do. They write 2, 3, they write a number of different drafts of their suicide notes. Okay. And again, this is one of the things which naturally stops people to do killing themselves. They write a suicide note and think, fucking hell, I'm not going to do that. That's pretty shit, isn't it? That's bad. But in the military, we have this acquired capability because we get people to write these letters. MCCP, before we deploy, you go through there and the clerks are there to make sure you've written your will. Okay, the clerk sat there, have you done your will? JPA, or the clerk says in over a printout, no, you need to redo your will. So your will. I wrote my first will when I was 17 years old before I went to Bosnia. 17 years old writing your own will. Again, not normal behavior for a human being, but it's part of being in the military. Now, when I got to my last tour, which was Herrick 16, my battalion, we had taken a number of fatalities over previous tours. And I don't know if this is an army policy or somebody just thought it was a good idea, but everyone was told, before we leave, MFO box up all of your kit, box up all your possessions. Okay, and on top of your box, you're going to put your service dress, your medals, and your hat are going to go on top of your box, because should you be killed, we're going to put you in your number 2s. Your medals and your hat are going to go on top of your coffin. Okay, people, when they are thinking about killing themselves, okay, and people are thinking about suicide, they will get their affairs in order. What we do pre-deployment really is emulating what somebody does when they are preparing to end their life. Now, when I went through this in the non-military way, and then I came up with this idea about how in the veteran or in the military mindset of acquired capability, means that before we even start looking at the other two, veterans tend to have a massive acquired capability, okay, due to the nature of the job in the military. So we have already got this huge acquired capability. We've broken down those boundaries, okay? We've broken down those boundaries, which stops the human condition from taking their own life. Now, this is really important. So joiners theory looks like this as a Venn diagram. As I said before, we have an acquired capability. So for suicidal thought and suicidal ideation, you need 3 ingredients. We need the acquired capability. Well, I've just said we have that in spades. That is what the tools the military gave us. There's a downside to the tools the military gave us, and that's it, the acquired capability. Loss of belonging. Lots of things can happen with that loss of belonging, but once we leave the military, be it through medical discharge or how we leave the military, that loss of belonging comes in there. And then the thoughts of becoming a burden. Now, think about these three circles and how they overlap and interact, okay? And how powerful each one of these circles are, and the size of each one of these circles and how they interact, okay? When you get loss of belonging, thoughts of becoming a burden together, okay, that's where hopelessness comes from. The thoughts of hopelessness, loss of belonging, and thoughts of becoming a burden. Now, this is very common within a lot of people, okay? In the non-military environment, okay, with the civilian and the person without that acquired capability, we're going to become in there, and that's where we're going to get depression and all of these other horrible thoughts and feelings are going to come in there, okay? But once we add acquired capability into the mix, that's the red area. Now, suicide is a bad place to be, okay? That is final, okay? You can have a problem which you can sort out. Any problem can be sorted out. Once you've gone to that suicide, there's no coming back from that. Now, we know in the military context, we have, and with our veterans, we have an acquired capability. We can't do much about that. However, what we can fix is the other two, okay? And we need to be able to address those. And this is why being part of the veteran community is really important, and where I really feel that we need to look, okay, which is the loss of belonging and thoughts of becoming a burden. So what can we do about this? Seeking help, as we know, is the hardest step. Right? We sit on our problems. Now, working in veterans mental health and working in mental health in general, one of the things we see is people come forward and they present to us, okay, when they've got a mental health with poor mental health, when it reaches that certain line. Okay, it reaches that certain line and it fills over the top, and they think, I need to seek help because this has gone too far. And I see lots of people who come forward with very minor things, because their tolerance level for their mental health is very low. Okay, but that's great because they'll come forward and they'll seek help in their primary health environment, okay, often with smaller problems, and they will get sorted out. Veterans tend to be another matter. They will keep it in. They will keep in all of that pain, all of that hurt, and all of this baggage they're carrying. And they will come forward and they will sit down, and then they will let it all out. And they will sit down, and they've been sitting on these problems for years, and they will come down and sit down. So seeking help is the hardest step, and it will take it out of you, okay? But let's try look at that. Let's look at moral courage. Let's look at sea drills. Let's look at courage, okay? And making that first step is often the hardest, okay? Coming forward and talking to your friends about it. Okay, what we can do is we can regain a sense of belonging. When we say loss of belonging, okay, we need to regain that sense of belonging. So what I said before, can't do much about acquired capability, but we can help with the other two. So we're going to look at regaining a sense of belonging. Veterans breakfast clubs, getting new hobbies, volunteering associations, okay, whatever you can do to get that feeling of belonging back again, okay? Re-establishing identity. We spoke about identity before, and it's not static, it's dynamic, and it changes with time and experience. And at different parts of your life, you've felt different ways, but once you're out of the military, you need to find something to, what is your identity? Okay, and we can talk about this another time. It's quite big, looking at identity. Okay, but it's not static. It's finding who you are. Okay, and when we talk about it, we'll look into values and standards and values-based recovery, which is really important, especially with veterans. Avoid negative coping strategies. Now, we know there's negative coping strategies out there with drugs and alcohol, and that's one of the reasons why veterans tend to go that path. It's a negative coping strategy. Okay, there's also other negative coping strategies, which we go on a sort of self-destructive. We can go on a self-destructive rampage, can't we? And just destroy our family because we don't feel that we're good enough to be in that family anymore. We think that we've got to punish ourselves. Okay, and that can become a negative coping strategy and really badly affect your relationship, the relations of those around you. Okay, buddy system. Okay, check on your mates. Okay, we've all got that duty of care to our friends and our mates around us. Okay, if somebody's gone radio silent for a while, check in on them. Okay, things may be getting too much for them. They may be fighting those demons. Okay, and they feel that they're fighting those demons on their own. Buddy system. Okay, and get the guys to come forward and seek help. Okay, don't try taking it onto your own shoulders. Establish comms. We're going to talk about your problems, what's going on in your life. Talk to your family. Re-establish comms. Re-establish comms with your old mates. Okay, that's one of the main things I use social media for. Okay, is to stay in touch with people. Okay, through talking to people on social media, I know there's a lot of guys out there going through the same. Okay, I put up posts quite often talking about. I know I scare some people sometimes, but I will talk about what's going through my mind. People sometimes think I might be in trouble. There may be a bit of suicidal ideation there. There isn't. Okay, with me, I'm putting forward my thoughts. Some people put it on paper. I'll just put a rant out on social media. Okay, to get stuff off my chest, and I hope that by doing something like that helps other people. Okay, because they can identify, they can recognize. Well, yeah, I'm feeling that as well. Okay, you're not alone. Okay. So I hope this has come out well. I'm going to chuck this up onto YouTube and share it around a bit. Please put stuff in the comments, okay? If you found any of this useful, okay? I'll gladly answer questions in the comments and stuff, okay? Just please talk to your mates, okay? Seek help, okay? Think about joiners theory. Think about those three things, and if any of them apply to you. If I'm talking bollocks, just tell me I'm talking bollocks, okay? But just putting this out there for something for you guys to think about. So, little disclaimer then there. Okay, so if you're someone you know or experiencing a crisis and need of urgent mental health support, please call 111 or visit www.nhs.uk and speak to the NHS Mental Health Triage Support Service. Okay. Also, we've got a new thing called HIS, okay, High Intensity Service, which is a veteran specific thing run by what's called Op Courage, okay, which is NHS England initiative. Okay, and if you identify yourself on 111 or 999 as a veteran, okay, they will get somebody back to you within that veteran pathway and be able to get you a more tailored support. Okay. Again, I said there, Samaritans offer emotional support 24 hours a day, 365 days a year through their free UK telephone number, which is 116 123. That is 116 123. And then if you or someone you know are at immediate risk of harming themselves or others, then please ring 999. Again, identify yourself on that call as a veteran, and you will get within England, you will get follow-up, okay, from a veteran-specific service on Op Courage, okay, and that goes in with TILS, the transition service as well, okay. So please put your comments in the bottom there. I hope this works, and I'll put out some more content later.